嗱，我哋而家人數咧就夠㗎啦。咁
We've got a quorum already, so I think we should start. In fact, some members have already raised their hands, indicating that they would like to ask questions. Now, before the officials come in, I want to say that we are going to pay a visit to the Mancam Toll office. The date will be the 24th of February, a Monday. We need to go there in the evening, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We want to look at the sampling or taking of food samples for testing. We want to know more about food testing and inspection at the Mancam Toll station. So there will be a coach taking us to Mancam Toll. And in February, our regular meeting will be held on the 11th of February, Tuesday, 2:30 to 4:30 in conference room 3. All right. So we'd like to welcome representatives from the Food and Health Bureau. They will give us a briefing on the 2014 policy address, policy initiatives of the Food and Health Bureau. So perhaps the Secretary can tell us more about the initiatives of the Bureau. In fact, not much is said in the policy address on the work of your Bureau, but I understand that you've given us quite a detailed paper on the initiatives of your Bureau. So the Secretary, please. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Now, with regard to food safety and environmental hygiene, the initiatives are contained in a paper issued to members. So I would like to, in particular, talk about 4 areas of our work: review of our agricultural policies, stepping up the regulation of nutrition labeling of formula products and foods for infants and young children under the age of 36, stepping up the regulatory framework for pet trading, and also dealing with the risk of avian flu or an avian flu outbreak. First of all, promoting agricultural development, Chairman. Our existing agricultural policy is to provide infrastructure, technical support, and low-interest loans. To those concerned, we also make use of the Agricultural Development Fund administered by the Vegetable Marketing Organization to help farmers increase their productivity, competitiveness, and so on and so forth. In order to enhance our agricultural policy, there will be a review on our agricultural policies. There will be a public consultation exercise this year. We hope to promote local agriculture and the sustainable development of agriculture. We also hope to enhance the integrated social value of agriculture. And then second, preparing legislation to regulate nutrition labeling of formula products and food for infants and young children under the age of 36 months. We are committed to protecting the health of infants and young children in Hong Kong. And we propose to impose nutritional composition and nutrition labeling requirements for infant formula. Such infant formula is used before complementary feeding is introduced. This will ensure that infant formula for sale in Hong Kong have the appropriate composition and are nutritionally adequate, and that consumers are correctly informed about this in respect of each product through the label. And we're also proposing to impose nutrition labeling requirements for formula and foods intended for infants and young children under the age of 36 months so as to help the parents and the caretakers make informed food choices. In fact, we've consulted the public on these proposals. Respondents have expressed support for the legislative proposals. Some respondents have asked us to enact legislation as soon as possible. In fact, we've reported to this panel the outcome of the consultation exercise. We are preparing the legislation, and we hope that legislative proposals can be tabled in this council within this year. and a grace period will be provided to the sector before the commencement of the legislation. Next, I want to talk about tightening up the regulatory framework for pet trading to enhance animal welfare. Last year, we consulted the panel on the proposed legislation to step up the regulation of pet trading. Members expressed different views concerning the proposed licensing regime, and some deputations and pet traders and the breeders also gave some input. In fact, in the past few months, we met legislative councillors, animal groups, and the sector again, and views were exchanged on the implementation details. We are now studying these comments, and we hope that we can come up with a feasible regulatory framework. We hope to table the proposals before LegCo within this year. And then to minimize the risk of an influenza or avian flu outbreak and to enhance food safety. Now, after the outbreak of H7N9 in the mainland, we have been maintaining close liaison with the AQ/SIQ and the relevant entry, exit, extension, and quarantine authorities in the mainland to keep developments related to the outbreak under assessment and discuss the response measures required to ensure the safety of live poultry and poultry products supplied to Hong Kong for the purpose of safeguarding public health. With the support of the AQ/SIQ, the relevant CIQs have enhanced H7 AI surveillance on live poultry and poultry products parked for Hong Kong by increasing the sample size and the frequency of farm inspections. Our testing results obtained so far are negative. Locally, the CFS under the FEHD has since April 2013 conducted PCR rapid tests against H7 avian flu on imported live poultry upon their entry at the boundary control point. And so far, 14,000 samples have been tested, and they have all been tested negative for both H7 and H7 viruses. The AFCD, FEHD, and CFS have enhanced preventive and control measures against H7N9 at all levels of the live poultry supply chain, such as stepping up environmental surveillance at local poultry farms, the poultry wholesale market, and live poultry retail outlets, strengthening inspection of live poultry from the mainland at the Man Kam To Animal Inspection Station, and constructing new facilities at the poultry wholesale market for holding leftover local chickens, imported chickens, and minor poultry. On the basis of these measures, in order to further strengthen our background monitoring and preventive capabilities concerning mainland farms supplying poultry to Hong Kong, we've reached a consensus with the AQ/SIQ and the CIQs, and we've decided that starting from the 24th of January, in other words, next Friday, there will be serological testing for H7 avian flu, and there will be such tests at the Man Kam To Animal Inspection Center, and in fact we'll also introduce such testing for local farms. But then I must explain to members that serological testing aims to help us find out whether poultry and farms have been infected with H7 before. So this is to further increase background surveillance and our preventive capabilities. But then a positive result shows that the live poultry have been infected, but it doesn't mean that poultry which are receiving the test do carry the virus. So at the moment, we mainly have to rely on the rapid test for the screening, and we have of course stepped up the notification mechanism and emergency measures. Now, For live poultry from the mainland, if at the Mankamto inspection center, if the result is positive for a serological test, then the CFS will immediately, from the same batch of live poultry, take an extra 120 samples. Now, concerning the original H7 PCR rapid test, now both we and the mainland take 30 samples for testing, and if there is a positive result after serological testing for H7 avian flu, then the CFS will take an extra 120 samples for the analysis of the AFCD laboratories. So in other words, we take 30 samples at the Mankamto station, and if the serological testing yields positive results, then there will be 120 extra samples taken for testing, and that will help us more effectively detect the H7 avian flu virus. If the subsequent PCR or if the PCR test use negative results, then it shows that that batch of live poultry doesn't carry the avian flu virus, and as a result, the live poultry can be supplied to the market. And we will also notify the relevant authorities in the mainland of all the inspections carried out concerning particular farms in the mainland. And for live poultry from the mainland, if the serological tests yield positive results, then we will increase the sample size. And if the PCR tests yield positive results, then that batch of live poultry will be destroyed, culled immediately. And live poultry, which is kept in the wholesale market at that time, will also be destroyed. We will also make reference to the recommendations of the World Organization for Animal Health, and the market will be closed. I mean, the wholesale market will be closed for 21 days for thorough cleansing and disinfection. And concerning the mainland, the source registered farm will also suspend the supply of live poultry to Hong Kong for 21 days, because our wholesale market will be closed for 21 days. And then there will be mutual notification of all the test results before the supply can be resumed. So concerning live poultry samples in the mainland, now at the moment we don't have serological testing for H7. We only have the rapid PCR test for H7. And in fact, there may still be risks concerning this situation, but then the situation will end very soon.
So we will be monitoring the situation on the mainland. If there are human cases on the mainland, or, well, I'm talking about the mainland live poultry markets, and if we find that certain samples are tested positive, or certain live poultry are testing positive, then we will carry out a serological testing. This testing would be more accurate. So in the future, we will not have to rely on the live poultry market testing and human cases of the mainland when we decide on whether live poultry should be exported from the mainland. Now, live poultry have been exporting from the mainland, and our markets are totally separated from theirs. That we have two different systems, and there is no intersection between the two systems. Now, in the past, I said that, well, in Shenzhen, there might be certain cases. For example, if a Hong Kong person has visited the mainland market and he's infected, then we would have to suspend the supply of live poultry to Hong Kong. But this is not totally related. Secretary, due to time constraint, please be concise. Well, this is a very important concept, so that's why I have to explain to you in greater details. You have to understand this point. This is very important. Now, for the live poultry exported from the mainland, because they have to come from registered farms, they would not be put in the live poultry market on the mainland. So we think that there is no need to suspend the supply of live poultry. Now, as a preventive measure, we will be looking at the markets on the mainland, and for a particular patient, if he has visited certain places, then we will look at the area with a radius of 13 kilometers, and we will enhance our surveillance. We will carry out serological testing and PCR rapid tests. We will enhance our communication and exchange with the mainland authorities. We'll look at their actual situation, and we will join our hands to do a better preventive job when it comes to avian flu. I would like to reiterate that now there are registered farms providing live poultry to Hong Kong, and they have adopted very stringent biosecurity measures, and they also have tracking arrangements. All their live poultry accompanied by a certificate issued by the relevant authorities, and they will be sent from the farms directly to Mankamto. Now, we will continue to inspect these farms regularly so as to ensure their compliance. As for the registered farms in Shenzhen, after the 24th of January, they can resume the supply of live poultry to Hong Kong. Now, we will monitor closely the developments of H7N1. We will update our risk assessments constantly. And we would like to stress that the government has adopted a lot of preventive measures, but we have to join hands with the public. So we will call on the public to cooperate with us to prevent the disease. Now, they have to pay attention to their personal hygiene, and they have to wash their hands all the time. If they feel uncomfortable, they have to wear a face mask. If they go to an affected area, they should not come into contact with live poultry or go to a live poultry market. And when they consult the doctor, they have to tell the doctor that they have visited other places, and they should not bring poultry meats back to Hong Kong illegally. These are all very effective preventive measures. Thank you. For our meeting, it will end at 6 o'clock sharp. And now 9 members have raised their hands to ask questions. Oh, now we have 10. So each member will be given 4 minutes, 11 members now. Each member will be given 4 minutes, including questions and answers. Now, if you want to if you want government officials to give you more detailed answer, please leave some time for them. Gloria Mo, Mark Wei Kun, Chen Chi-chun, Han Chun-yin, Wu Chi-wei, Huang Bik-wan, Tang Ka-piu, Liang Ka-lau, Zhang Han-peng, and Sid Ho. Have I omitted anyone? Then this is the first round. If we still have time left, then there will be a second round. But I'm not sure about that. Okay, 4 minutes. Ms. Claudia Mo. Now, human health is, of course, very important. However, we know how to fight for ourselves. So please allow me to fight for animals who cannot speak for themselves. Now, for this policy address, when it comes to animal rights and welfare, it is totally silent. We have 7 animal welfare groups, including Animal Earth and a number of other animal groups. They have issued a censure announcement. They say that this is a cold-blooded policy address. They are ashamed that we have such a CE who is cold-blooded. Now, before the publication of the policy address, over 400 members of the public have written down their views concerning animal welfare. But this policy address is totally silent on this. 2013 was a tragic year for animals in Hong Kong. On the average, we have an animal cruelty or fatal incident every 3 days. And the policy address is totally silent on this. And also in that statement, it says that the government treats animals as rubbish and it treats public opinions as rubbish. Now the secretary is here today. Well, he has said something about animal welfare. He says that they will be tightening the regulation of dog breeders and traders. Now you're talking to us about legislation. Yes, I understand that the Undersecretary has been paying attention to this. 99% of the animal groups have told you that yes, definitely you have to regulate the dog breeders and traders. But you cannot come up with all types of licenses and permits. You only need one license, and that should be enforceable by the AFCD. It's not that, there is a suspected cruelty case and then you cannot enter the premises to inspect. So we only need one license. You can say that within a certain period of time, you can only breed a certain number of dogs. That is not the right way to do it. Now, a lot of people think that this is an inhumane business, but now you are legalizing it. Well, if I have nothing to do, and then I'll just keep a few dogs, and then my dogs would give birth to some puppies, and then I can sell these puppies, and it's very easy to get a license. You are actually encouraging people to breed puppies, and this is totally unnecessary and inhumane. You said that before the end of the year you will be submitting this piece of legislation to us. So when it comes to private dog breeders, I think you really have to listen to the views of the community. I am not threatening you. This is real. This is true. The animal groups will definitely fight against you. Secretary, I would like to thank Ms. Mao for her question. Actually, we attach a lot of importance to animal welfare. And when it comes to regulating dog breeders and traders and the relevant legislation, last time I listened to views of different groups, and afterwards I also heard the voices of many other groups. I hope Ms. Moore would understand this. When it comes to this issue, there are many views, and there are many ways of assuring animal welfare. So we are very serious in listening to people's views, and now we're trying to put together feasible ways to ensure animal welfare. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing, Chairman. First of all, I would like to welcome the government's remarks. In your statement, you have mentioned agricultural policy. Now, this is commendable because the last government was on the verge of abolishing AFCD, and we objected to it. So that's why now Mr. Wong can still be the director of AFC. So after expressing my support, I would like to ask questions. First question for the Secretary. For the importation of live cattle, when will that review be completed? Initially, you said that it was the end of last year. Now you tell me you don't know. And now beef is getting more and more expensive. I think the price has been raised 7 to 8 times. So this is question number 1. And in paragraph 186 of the policy address, it mentions municipal service and the review on public markets. Well, Secretary, you have visited public markets. Last year, you've seen that many of them are not air-conditioned, and it's very difficult for people to operate there. So we do not have to wait for the consultancy report. If you think that certain markets should be air-conditioned, you should install the air conditioners right away. You don't have to wait for the consultancy report. And last year, the government also accepted the promotion approved by the panel. That is, the rental of market stores will be frozen, but this will expire at the end of this year. Now, if you do not install air conditioners for the markets right now, so what will happen to the rents? Will the rents continue to be frozen until we have a satisfactory answer from you? So here are 3 questions. I hope the Secretary can answer them. 3 questions, Chairman. Thank you for the questions. First of all, about live cattle. I think, well, we have had a lot of views concerning this issue. We have also talked about this at the panel. We have conducted a study on this. Although we do not have 100% argument supporting that beef price would drop if we open the live cattle market, we still are willing to try opening up the market of live cattle supply. We are trying to stabilize the markets by doing so. Now, we have talked to the industry representatives, and we have also liaised with the relevant authorities on the mainland. I myself have talked to more than one of the departments on the mainland, and several months ago, the Ministry of Commerce on the mainland has agreed to set up a mechanism to look further into this possibility. Now, officially, we have started conducting meetings with the Ministry of Commerce, and we understand that they would have to carry out studies concerning the cattle farms and markets on the mainland. They have to gather information, and then we will have more meetings to explore the opening up of the live cattle market.
All right, perhaps you can give replies to the other questions when you have time. So if you want replies from the Secretary, please be concise. Ms. Alice Mack, 4 minutes. I will be concise. I want to follow up on Mr. Wong Kwok Heng's question with regard to markets. We understand that there is a consultancy study on how to improve upon the operating environment in our markets. Now, Secretary, now for new towns, new development areas, we've requested that markets be provided. You are telling us that you need to study the functions and the positioning of public markets. Now, I think it's important that the positioning and the functions of public markets are made clear. And so you need to improve upon existing markets, and you also will need to construct and provide new markets in new towns and new development areas. Secondly, concerning the licensing regime for private columbaria, I think the progress has been slower than expected. Secretary, you are telling us that legislative proposals will be ready in the second half of this year. I would like to know when the regulatory or licensing regime for private columbaria will be ready. And then animal welfare. Now, of course, we're concerned about pet trading, and we're also concerned about the service provided by vets. And as you've stated in the paper, we have seen more and more complaints against vets. It is said that a review is being conducted, and you are telling us that there will be a bill. But is there a timetable for introducing the amendments into this council? And how are you going to step up the work of the veterinary surgeon's board? Secretary. Now, first of all, on the markets, the consultancy study will be completed and the report will be available later this year. Now, we'll look at the circumstances and the situation in different new towns and different newly developed areas to see whether public markets are needed, whether it's likely that public markets will be viable. And also, with regard to the freeze imposed on market store rentals, now earlier on we proposed to the panel that the freeze would last for 2 years. That was because would have to wait for the consultancy report and would have to get some time or to study the consultancy report. So there will be a freeze, or there is this freeze lasting for 2 years, in other words, lasting till the end of 2015. And then private columbaria. We hope to be able to table the bill in this council this year. But then I'm worried that some parties may go to the extreme, totally disregarding the reality. And so I really don't know when the bill can be passed. And I hope that the legislation can be passed within 2 years from the tabling of the proposals. And then we'll give a very clear commencement timetable concerning the legislation. Mr. Chan Chi-chun and then Mr. Ho Chun-yin. Now, I'm concerned about the supply of private niches in public columbaria. Now, in fact, I can't see the word columbaria or niches in the policy address. In fact, neither can I find these words in the last policy address. Is it that C.Y. Leung thinks these words are taboos, or is it that he thinks that these are initiatives handed down from the last government? Now, may I refer to paragraph 29 of today's paper, Chairman, towards the end. And I quote, to provide 200,000 niches by phases starting from 2022. By how many phases? How many years? That's my first question. And then it is said that the supply of new niches will cumulatively increase to hundreds of thousands by 2031. That's in para 30. So what is meant by hundreds of thousands? Fewer than 200,000 or more than 200,000. Now, para 30 merely says that with the support of DCs and electrical, then the supply of new niches will cumulatively increase to hundreds of thousands by 2031. So what can you elaborate? And then I want to know whether the policy to have niches in all 18 districts. Concerning this policy, have you changed this policy? Do we still have this policy? Now, if district councils oppose the provision of niches on a certain site, do you require them to propose another site? Mr. Cole, now concerning public columbaria, now in each of the 18 districts, we've earmarked at least one site for the construction of a public columbarium. But there's a lot of work to do in respect of planning and carrying out feasibility studies. But when we come to the design stage, we'll have to consult the district councils in depth. Now concerning North District and the two large columbaria in Tuen Mun, I want to say that we've done a lot of work at the district council level. And at this stage, the district councils do express support. But then I must point out that the support may be conditional. For example, columbaria in Tuen Mun, the district council support is conditional upon our pledge to bring about improvements to the road networks. So before we can get the support of the district council, before we can get funding from the FC, I can't tell you in very certain terms that the project will proceed. Now in Sha Tin, there is a proposed columbarium for Shek Mun, and we have encountered problems. According to district councillors, the residents have raised very great objection. I want to say that in fact, land planning and building departments under the Development Bureau have given us a lot of assistance in producing attractive designs for these columbaria. But then, of course, we understand the concerns of the residents, so we need to carry out consultation, further consultation, and lobbying. And Mr. Chen, I want to say that our policy hasn't changed. We want to have district-based columbarium development schemes. So we don't want district councillors to say, why in my district? But then concerning the scale, the improvement measures required, and where the columbaria should be in the district, yes, we can try to do our part and allay the concerns of those concerned. I thank you, Mr. Ho Chun Yin, and then Mr. Wu Chi Wai. Yes, Chairman. Yes, I think we'll be discussing our agricultural policies in the coming year. In fact, the sector is encouraged. We haven't had such discussions in the past 16 years. Now, I think the greatest problem faced by the sector is land. In fact, you can see that in Hong Kong, we have quite a large quantity of agricultural land. But then some of the land is vacant. Some are using such sites for open storage. Someone are seeking a rezoning of the land use. So I would like to ask whether the Secretary has liaised with the Development Bureau on this issue. I think the Development Bureau is quite desperate in identifying suitable sites for housing development. So I'm just concerned that even if we try our best to come up with proposals, then those proposals may not be able to tally with the Development Bureau's study results. And also, many members may not really appreciate the importance of agricultural industries. So perhaps let's call this panel and the government can go on a study tour so that we can try to help map out the way forward for Hong Kong's agricultural industry. Mr. Cole. Yes, Chairman. In the policy address, the CE talks about sustainable development, upgrading of skills and technology, and so on and so forth. And in fact, the department has all along been giving support to those involved in agriculture locally. Now, of course, land is one of the problems that we face in respect of our agricultural development, and that's why we are exploring new methods, for example, aquaculture and so on and so forth. This is because land resources are scarce in Hong Kong. So if we can identify new methods of farming, then it would be good, or we can try to help enhance the productivity on each unit of land. And in fact, we have been working with the Development Bureau in the NT. There are sites zoned agriculture. We need to know what the existing uses are. We also need to find out where we can find land if we want to promote local agriculture. The policy address states that there will be a public consultation exercise on the agricultural policy for Hong Kong. And in fact, we are having a review on agricultural sites in rural areas, the existing uses of these sites. We are collecting the information so that there can be informed discussion on the part of the public when we launch the public consultation exercise. And then the study tour. Yes. In fact, if panel members are interested, then we are willing to have discussions with members as to how we can facilitate members' understanding of agricultural development in Hong Kong and outside Hong Kong. All right, we can have some discussion after this meeting. All right, Wu Chi Wai, and then I myself, and then Tan Ka Piu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the Developments Panel meeting, Mr. Paul Chan mentioned agricultural land, and he would do that by zoning. No matter whether it's Mr. Ho or our members who are concerned about the NT, well, you know that there will be a lot of controversies. Now, even if you zone that piece of land as agricultural, does it really mean that people will be farming there? So when you review the relevance policy, you have to consider all these other factors. Now, the agricultural land should come from the government. Now, you have to pay attention to this. And second, now, Secretary, last time you mentioned columbarium, and in the future, there may be the setting up of different sections so that there won't be such a huge traffic impact, and we supported the direction. Now, if you look at the figures, the gap will be greater and greater. By 2022, there will be 200,000 niches. So there will be a huge gap between now and 2022. That's why the private columbaria are mushrooming. Now, there are existing cemeteries, so you may be building crematoria in the vicinity. But if you do that, there will be a major traffic problem. Last time when you talked about this policy, we also said this. So when you plan for the future, maybe this idea should be incorporated. So I hope that you can work in this direction. In Hong Kong, we have a number of cemeteries, but in the past, because of traffic problem, we didn't implement this measure. Yes, that's right. While we are planning for new crematoria, there are two major obstacles. First, objection from the residents, and second, traffic. So when we plan for a new columbarium, this will become a bottleneck. Mr. Wu is right. Other than the existing, other than the columbaria that are contained in the existing consultation, maybe we should be introducing this new idea. This new idea actually two-pronged. First of all, time limit. That is, after a certain period of time, if we discover that we cannot contact the relatives related to a certain niche, then maybe we will set up a time limit, and then after a certain period of time we will remove the ashes. But some people object to this, because if the ashes are removed and if the family members come back, then they would raise objection or they would protest. So we have thought about the session option, but of course there are people who have reservation on this. Well, Secretary, I'm pleased to hear that you have reached a consensus with AQSIQ concerning the supply of live poultry to Hong Kong and serological testing. I know there will be two tests. First of all, serological test, and second, PCR rapid test. And for those who are tested positive after the rapid test, the chicken would not be banned. Will be banned from Hong Kong. But if it's a serological test, if the result is positive, then you would just inspect the relevant farms or markets, right? Now, if the result of a serological test is positive, then you would definitely have to do a PCR test, because it is a genetic test, and that would find out whether certain chickens have been infected or they are carrying certain virus. If the test result is positive, then we will have to tackle the issue immediately. Now, after we've beefed up the test, now if the rapid test result is negative, then we really cannot say that batch of poultry is infected, but it shows that the relevant chicken farm, in a certain period of time before the test, the poultry in that farm had come into contact with the relevant virus. So we will have to step up disinfection and cleaning at that farm, and afterwards we will decide when the live poultry from that farm can be imported into Hong Kong. Now, there are more and more human cases on the mainland. In the past few days, human cases have been discovered in different provinces. And for the patients' age, some of them are very young. For example, 29, 30. But for this paper, you just talked about the farms that are providing chickens to Hong Kong, but for other farms on the mainland, we don't know what happened to them. Now, the Chinese New Year is around the corner. Many people will go to the mainland, and many mainlanders will come to Hong Kong. So how can you ensure that there will not be an AI outbreak in Hong Kong? And also in your paper, paragraph 19, you talk about poultry eggs. That is the eggs of infected poultry. They may also contain AI virus. So how are you going to check the poultry eggs? And now Hong Kong people eating chickens. If a chicken is not thoroughly cooked, if the bone still is bloody, or an egg is not thoroughly cooked, for example, sunny side up, so would they be dangerous? Now, we recommend that all eggs be cooked thoroughly. I'm not saying that it is risky to eat eggs, but eggs should be cooked thoroughly. As for your questions, now we are introducing serological testing for H7AI, and at the same time, at the poultry farms on the mainland and at Bangkam-to, as well as our local farms, we are doing the serological test. And if a problem occurs at a mainland farm, because it involves our mainland authorities, and we have to talk to the relevant CIQs and the AQSIQ. They would also carry out their test, and if both test results are positive, then we will handle the case as if it were an AI. But if the rapid test result is negative, they will still step up the regulation of the relevant farm. There will be cleaning and disinfection, and afterwards they will communicate with us, and we'll see if the export from that farm can be resumed. Mr. Leung-Ka-Lau, Dr. Leung-Ka-Lau, and then Mr. Chahan-Ben. I have some simple questions for the Secretary. That's about the serological testing. If I have read it right, then the rapid test will continue to be carried out, right? 30 samples. So for the serological testing, if the result is positive, then sample number will increase to 120 to play safe. Now, I would like to ask about the scientific characteristics of the serological testing. Now, if there are 20 people sitting here, and if these 20 people are tested for hepatitis B, then 1 or 2 will be tested positive. So for serological testing, for each batch of chicken, would 5% of the chicken be positive? So if you test 20 batches, then 1 batch will be positive. Would there be such a characteristic? And second, now if a chicken infects another chicken, what's the percentage of a negative test result? I would like to ask Dr. Sit to answer this question. Thank you. Now for serological testing, if a chicken is tested a batch of chicken is tested, and would there be a positive result? Yes, that would be the case. Well, for H5 and H7, when we carry out the serological test, there should not be any positive results. According to our H5 experience, when we tested the samples, well, these samples should not be positive. And according to the guideline of the World Organization for Animal Health, if the result is positive, then we will carry out a genetic test. I'm not asking you this. Now, for a batch of chicken, if there are 1,000 chickens, if you test all the chickens, then 5% of the chicken would be positive. Would there be such a random? No, that would not be the case. So for that batch of chicken, now, if the result is positive, that means that batch of chicken has come into contact with the virus. So if one chicken is positive, then the whole batch is positive. Of course, that's not the case. So that's what I mean. If there is a batch of 1,000 chickens and you have tested 1,000 chickens and at least 50 of them will be tested positive, then that will be useless. No, I'm asking you about the scientific basis. Well, experts have looked into it. For a batch of chickens, we will just test a certain number, and they are the samples. And now for our sampling method is already been proved by experts. This is an appropriate proportion. So if you test all the 1,000 chickens in one batch, then 50% of the chickens will be positive. So it's like there are 20 people here, and if you test us for hepatitis B, then 5% of us will be positive. I'm telling you that is not the case. So if one chicken is tested positive, then the whole batch will be regarded positive. I'm telling you that is not the case. Then that is not logical. That's not scientific. So what are the scientific justifications? Well, then I am not too sure about your question. If Dr. Sit understands his question, maybe you can answer him. Now, maybe I can answer your question in this way. For H7N9, over the past 100 years, the infection rate could be very high, 10% to 20%. That means if a virus enters a group of chickens, for example, 1,000 chickens, then the incubation period will be several days, and 10 to 20% of the chicken would develop an H7 antibody. That is, about 100 to 200 chickens would develop that antibody, and we will random check this group of chickens, and we will be able to find out chickens that are positive. So we would have to look at the characteristic of each virus. And we do not just take samples randomly. When we try to control AI, actually we are checking the chickens from a registered farm. So from an actual saleable chicken, there will be 90 days. So before that chicken exits the farm, we will conduct a test, and the test must be negative before a certificate can be issued. And when the chickens come to Mankamto, there will be another test. This kind of procedures are carried out in many countries in the world. Now, can you provide me with the relevant scientific justifications? Dr. Sitz, can you provide that to the relevant member after the meeting? Next, Mr. Chen Hanpen, and followed by Mr. Ho. For this policy address, there is a paragraph on agricultural policy, and I welcome that, as I agree with Mr. Ho Chun-yin. Now, we know that new forms of farming can be lucrative, and it can be very productive. However, in the past, the government has not done anything concerning our agricultural policy.
Now, concerning Mr. Ho's suggestion to go on a study tour to nearby areas, for example, Taiwan. I understand that they do have certain practices. We can look at their practices, the equipment they use, and so I really hope that Dr. Koh can actively consider the suggestion of leading a study tour to Taiwan. to look at its agricultural policy. Now, Dr. Cole, now concerning the import of live poultry, say at Mankamto, if a chicken is tested H7 positive, then of course we will stop the import of live poultry, and then the Changsha Wan wholesale market will be closed for 21 days. But then we still have a lot of chickens in our local farms, and they're not infected by H7. And as a result, there will be a lot of loss of chickens in the farms, and as a result, the risk of an AI outbreak in Hong Kong will be increased. So, can you can you treat the two markets separately? I mean, poultry from local farms and live poultry from farms in the mainland. And then second, I hope that you can really seriously consider retrofitting public markets of air conditioning. Now, at the moment, we have to have 80% of the market store lessees agreeing before air conditioning can be installed. So can you lower this percentage, please? Yes, I thank Mr. Chen for his question. Concerning treating live poultry from the mainland and live poultry reared locally separately. Now I want to say that in fact at the moment at the wholesale market there are facilities for holding leftover local chickens, imported chickens and minor poultry. But then if the PCR test is positive, then we have to put in place risk management measures. And even if I separate the two batches of chickens from different sources at the Changsha Wan wholesale market, now I want to say that under the recommendation of the World Organization for Animal Health, the wholesale market needs to be closed and for 21 days and disinfected. And if chickens from local farms are tested H7 positive, then chickens from the mainland farms will also be affected because the wholesale market will have to be closed. Now, it would be an ideal situation if we can have two wholesale markets for the two different sources, but then we now don't have two wholesale markets. And then concerning markets, we are now conducting a consultancy study, and we are now looking at markets where air conditioning is badly needed, and we'll see whether we can make arrangements under the existing mechanism. Ms. Sid Ho and then Mr. Michael Tim. Yes, Chairman, I would also like to ask a question about avian flu. Now concerning PCR tests, serological tests, I hope that the secretary and the department can give us more information if they have the time. But then, according to media reports, many Hong Kong people go to the mainland to buy food items, including live poultry. And in fact, one woman was interviewed. She bought over 20 live chickens. She, or rather should I say, she bought 20 chickens. She said that people asked her to buy the chickens for her, and then she bought the chickens. She used boiled water and immersed the live chickens in boiled water, so that when she went through customs would think that the chickens were cooked chickens. So what will customs officers do if they see Hong Kong people bringing in huge quantities of chickens which look like cooked chickens? And do we want Hong Kong people to bring in so many cooked chickens as gifts or what? Mrs. Lai, yes, thank you. No, poultry that is not cooked cannot be brought into Hong Kong according to the law. Poultry that is only poultry that is thoroughly cooked can be brought into Hong Kong. And then concerning live poultry, if such is to be brought in, then veterinary certificates are required. But we're not talking about we know the law, but we're talking about chickens which look like cooked chickens. This is not allowed. In fact, our customs officers do enforce the law rigorously, and I understand that customs officers are more vigilant when near the Lunar New Year period, and I have customs officers found Hong Kong people bringing in chickens which look like live chickens. We can provide the figures later. Chairman, thank you for helping me put my questions to the officials. Please give me the time that I am entitled to. But then the chickens may look like cooked chickens, but then it's really rather abnormal for a person to bring in 20 live chickens. So I just, yes, I understand that you're going to give us the enforcement figures. But then can the government tell the public that they should not do this? I understand that we do have APIs, but can you tell people, can you that they will be heavily penalized or fined if they bring in so many chickens which look like live chickens? This is like, yes, we'll do it. Yes, we'll join hands with the Customs and Excise Department to see how we can step up publicity in this regard. Do you have further questions? You still have over 10 seconds left. I've already asked my question. I don't need to use up all my time. Michael Tian and then Kenneth Chen. Chairman. Now, concerning the markets, they will have to give us an answer after the consultancy study has been completed. And then avian flu. In fact, I think Hong Kong people have become more used to eating chilled chickens. So perhaps we will not import the several thousand live chickens from the mainland every day. But I think the greatest headache to your bureau is the columbaria. You're talking about a district-based policy, and you are saying that engineering feasibility studies will have to be carried out, and then the transport systems have to be enhanced and upgraded, and you have to have the support of the district councils. So there are 4 conditions laid down, and you have to satisfy all these conditions before we can have this number of niches in 2013. I don't think you'll be able to achieve the target. Now let us learn from the landfill experience. In fact, initially Tuen Mun did not complain. So in fact you were working on all 3 landfills, but then all of a sudden the Cheung Kwan O landfill expansion was shelved, and Tuen Mun woke up to the fact that in fact there should be shared commitment. Now 24 areas, all right. Either you have or perhaps you have to do it in a bundled manner, or if you do it project by project, then even if the first 2 are supported, then in fact the third is objected to, then the first 2 will say, then the district councils will say, oh, will not support the first 2 anymore. So I've got a few simple questions for you. Now, what if one project is rejected by the district council? Are you confident that you can still go ahead with the remaining projects? And then second, now I understand that at the moment we have the Guangdong scheme, and then we have as homes for the elderly outside Hong Kong for Hong Kong people. So can we also have a Guangdong scheme for our columbarium? They build the columbarium, they provide the niches for Hong Kong people. So this is another example of welfare transfer. Now, Secretary, I want to tell you that you're talking about 2031, and I really don't know how many of us here will still be monitoring government's implementation of policies in 2031. So how come you can't buy niches, or how come Hong Kong people can't buy niches in the mainland? Mrs. Lai. Mrs. Lai has the experience of discussions of the mainland. Yes, in fact, I've been to Guangdong and have had discussions of relevant units on this matter. But then in Guangdong and in Shenzhen, they are also suffering from a shortage of land for burial grounds and for columbaria. And concerning Hong Kong people buying niches in the mainland, I want to say that this is already happening. And in fact, there were Hong Kong people who died, and their family members buried them in the mainland. And then as to whether we should give Hong Kong people a channel to buy niches in the mainland so as to alleviate the pressure in Hong Kong. Now, if I think we will interfere only if there is a need for government to provide some assistance. Otherwise, we should just concentrate on increasing supply in the mainland. And then 24 areas, 1 columbarium per area, whether this is sustainable, and what if one project fails, and will we be able to succeed in the other projects? Now, I want to say that we'll try our best to make sure that there will be a columbarium in all the 18 districts. Now, if a certain project doesn't succeed, then we will try to find another suitable site or identify a suitable project in the same district. I think you should start discussions with the mainland. Guangdong is a very big province indeed. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Now, concerning these special PA meetings for the administration and electrical members to have discussions on the initiatives in the coming year. Now, I want to say that we are discussing major issues: liquor licenses, pet trading, infant formula, agricultural policies, avian flu markets, and we understand that for agricultural policies, there may be bills in 2014 to 15. But then, and in fact, many I understand that lots of the bills will be tabled in this session. But then, if the bills cannot be passed, then the work can't be completed within this legislative term. Now, the Secretary, you're not working alone. You are supported by a big team, and I hope that the panel chairman and the panel deputy chairman can try to address this issue. Well, we've got so many issues here, and is there any division of labor? Now, in fact, no one wants to go to extremes, whether we're talking about infant formula or columbaria. Now, in fact, I think if there is a a division of labor, for example, which department is responsible, or which officials are responsible for each initiative. And then if we have very strong views about a particular initiative, then we can have discussions with you in advance. Or if you just throw out a policy, then there may be a public outcry. So perhaps we can take the initiative to contact the officials concerned, or you may want to contact LegCo members who are particularly interested in a particular initiative, and that will help facilitate the legislative work.
So we hope that we can be on equal footing when panels talk to government officials. I don't want to see empty talks for 3 years and you wanted to do 8 things and only 3 things are achieved, and we are still arguing over the other things, etc. So, Secretary, how about division of labor? Yes, I welcome Mr. Chan's suggestion. So for the panels, if the 2 chairmen can coordinate, and if certain members are particularly interested in a certain topic, we will focus our discussion with them. And I can talk to the chairman. Our officials are also responsible for different areas, so we can also have a better division of labor. For example, if you want to talk about the supply of formula products, I am responsible together with Mrs. Marianne Lai. But if you want to talk about animal welfare, maybe the Undersecretary would know that more. So these are some examples. So I can later talk to the 2 chairmen. Now, for a lot of work, we also have to handle them as a team. That is also true. But also there are certain areas and certain officials are particularly responsible for those areas. Well, it's very difficult to talk about so many things with the Secretary in one go. So if you can give us a list of the division of labor, then we can handle these different issues more efficiently. Maybe the clerk can help us. The clerk can follow up with the bureau. So now is the second round of questions. I would like to ask the question about poultry eggs again. That's paragraph 19. The government's paper says that the eggs from infected poultry could be contaminated, and you want to amend the relevant law. Now we are at the peak of AI because it is winter. So when will you amend the law, and what will you be doing about poultry eggs? Now, with regards to regulating poultry eggs, actually at the relevant panel we have discussed this. We have submitted a paper. So for the regulatory framework, it will be similar to the regulation of game, meat, and poultry. That is, there should be a health certificate. Now we are drafting the relevant bill. When it comes to law enforcement, we have to coordinate with the relevant departments. We hope that within this year, this piece of legislation can be tabled before LegCo. As the Secretary said just now, we encourage the public to thoroughly cook the eggs, and also they would have to pay more attention to hygiene. And how about paragraph 22, veterinary drug residue? There has been an increased use of veterinary drug in food animals, so there will be residue in food. You say that you will look at the pesticide residues in food regulation, and you will consider the regulatory proposal by making reference to that piece of legislation. Yes, this is what we are planning to regulate as well. As for the regulatory regime, it would be similar to the pesticide residues in food regulation. Now, it will come into operation on the 1st of August this year. So we will look at the situation then, and then we will consider how we should regulate vet drug residues. And we also have to liaise with the mainland because they are providing a lot of our food. So you do not have a timetable, you have to wait so after August. Yes, we will have to look at the operation of the pesticide residues in food regulation first. Now about rice, there were 3 rice samples from mainland and they were tested positive for cadmium.
抽驗嘅
So the CFS has tested mainland rice, and you said that no cadmium has been found. So that's different from the Consumer Council test. So now, do we have mainland rice and the markets, and what's the situation? Maybe Dr. Tam from the CFS can answer this question. Yes, I have received your letter and now we are handling it. I'm sorry about the delay. I would like to give you some background information first. In the past 3 years, we have tested food. We have conducted tests on 170 samples, and no heavy metal has been found in these 170 samples. But the Consumer Council has found cadmium in 3 samples, and it has exceeded the Hong Kong level. And we have looked at those samples, and one of them has exceeded the Hong Kong level. So now we are looking at this together with our mainland counterparts. Now, because for the rice exported to Hong Kong, they would all be tested by the mainland. And when Consumer Council tested the samples, actually those samples have reached their expiry dates already. So we don't know why the Consumer Council can still buy them. So now we are stepping up our efforts in random checks. And for mainland rice, it accounts for less than 10% of the rice provided in the Hong Kong market, and most of the rice come from northern China. And according to China's test, the rice from the north is better than the rice from the south. So we're still importing rice from southern China? Yes, but the amount is small. But we will step up our random checks. Now, for agricultural products, because they come from all parts of the world, also including northern China. Now, you talked about random check. So mainland would already do the check, and Hong Kong also do the check. So where would the checks be conducted? Now we are still talking to our mainland counterparts. We cannot give you an answer right away. When we get the answer, we will let you know. Thank you. So I think we can adjourn our meeting now. I would like to thank the government officials for attending the meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.